Hi, welcome to the Sifu Mimi Chan Show. Thanks for joining the conversation.
Hello. Okay, so I called my husband and I was like, Phil gave me the greeting I've been dreaming about my whole life in the Visible Women booth. I was like, we were literally like screaming like high schoolers or maybe middle schoolers.
Probably middle schoolers, yes.
I was so excited to see you in person after all the conversations we've had.
I was actually, it was so funny. These conventions are always reunions for all of us,
Yes.
but because I'd never met you, I was so excited. I mean, I never met you in the flesh.
Right.
It was actually probably one of the best moments at this convention.
Oh my gosh.
No, I've actually just been really happy that you're here.
Me
it's been really
too.
wonderful.
I know. Well, this whole thing has been a little bit of a magical, different type of con. And I'm like glad I'm talking to you kind of towards the end of it now. And today we have the big Historia panel, which we actually have no idea what we have in store for because we love Kelly Sue, and she's keeping us on our toes.
Yes.
So we have no idea what to expect.
Yes.
I'm a little obsessive, right? So I usually prepare for things like a month ahead. So this is a good practice for me.
It is very funny to say that, so I do not. So when conventions, for example, send me a lot of material to read, schedules and things like that, I really don't read them till about the day before I get somewhere because I just typically don't have bandwidth.
Yeah.
And because I get the memory of a goldfish. So it is easier for me when I get somewhere.
Yeah.
Like a couple nights before, that's when I start digesting stuff. So I know so many people who prep some stuff early. And they're like, did you read the material? Did you read the material? I'm terrible. I always just say no.
But you get it done.
But I get it done.
You get it done.
So I'm not, all of this long-winded waste of time is to say that I'm kind of relaxed and chill about this whole Historia thing. I'm like, it's going to be what it's going to be.
You know what? We'll share the deets with our listeners. But basically, we had a little reunion party last night, and it was hosted by Kelly Sue and Matt, and it was, I want to say, magical.
It was delightful.
I don't even know how to explain. Like, I really felt like imposter syndrome. Like, how am I even here? And it's just amazing.
That's crazy. I do have to say, when Kelly and Matt start telling stories, that's when I feel this sort of imposter syndrome. Like I feel like a little boy in the big boy room, right? Like,
or the big girl room. Table.
Yes, 100%. Totally. It was amazing. And what was really nice, as we know, is having Jean and Nicola there too.
Yes.
So, I mean, I can't think of the last time I physically saw Jean.
Okay.
So we've been communicating, as so many of us have, electronically or via Zoom or whatnot, but to see them has been really lovely.
It has. And this is actually the first time I've met Clayton and Andrea.
Yes.
I've never met them ever. And it's just kind of like, I guess this project, there's something literally magical. Like it's just pulled everyone together in a way of which we were just hanging out like we had known each other for years, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody just gelled. And that's why I'm not as worried about the panel. But the con in general, like it can be exhaustive.
So cons exhaust me. Generally, big crowds tend to exhaust me.
Yeah.
I'm really good at, putting on con face
Yes.
and sort of performing. I really do enjoy that. I've often said I'm incredibly fortunate because I'm here because all these people have, essentially paid for my work and they've allowed me to entertain them for so long. And so I'm really, really, conventions make me very grateful. But they are a lot of work and they're tiring.
Yes.
And especially being and it's part of it is just wanting to match the energy of all the other people in the room because they're all excited. Mm-hmm. And so it's sort of like we sort of rev.
Yeah, it's draining. I mean, it's like your face hurts from smiling by the end of the day and you don't want to be a grouch, but you're kind of like, just please,
right.
I don't
just
want
let
to
me finish my lunch. I love you.
Yeah.
It'll be great. But it's been really nice. This was a really good show.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. It's kind of like the good medium size of not the overwhelming crazy, SDCC where it's just like you may not see any of your friends for the whole con, for the whole weekend. Whereas this one, you're just constantly running into everybody. Oh, you guys are also like all in a row.
That was actually really lovely too.
Yeah.
I mean, that was really
nice. And so I just learned about portfolio review this weekend because it's not something that I'm would ever know about, because obviously I'm not going to ever review anyone's portfolio. I mean, I could, but I don't know what kind of feedback.
Yes, no.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that they want my feedback, but generally, can you just like share what that even means, and like how long does it take, and it's basically you just give feedback on work?
Mm-hmm. So I got into the business, as did Nicola and other people, by presenting a portfolio, in which were essentially Xerox copies of our work.
Okay.
And so it was through that process and through feedback from other editors and mentors that we learned, grew, and finally got our jobs through an editor, in my case, a talent development coordinator. And so I really love it. It's essentially critique. And so, as I said before, I've had a really good collection of, getting choked up, of mentors who helped me, and I just really like doing the same. I like passing on the generational knowledge.
Yeah, well, it's the pay it forward, right? It's like, you know, that you had people who looked out for you and gave you valid advice.
Yes.
Whereas in this industry, sometimes you have everybody who wants to give their opinion, but when someone like you would actually sit at a table, give opinions, and hopefully it's received well. Like, for the most part, people are really grateful, right?
It's received well. And the thing that I tend to do is so when they provide me copies of their work, so that I can actually mark over them.
Oh,
and
yeah. Here's my original.
Right. And so what's really, really fun is to take panels or figures that might need work, and sort of rearrange them or refine them in front of the artists themselves.
Okay.
Because not only can they then see what I'm talking about, because a lot of reviews just sort of like, you should do this, you should do this. And it becomes abstract. But when I show them, I'm like, this is what I'm talking about. This line quality is a problem. The composition of this panel could be rearranged this way for a dynamic result. That's what's actually really exciting. To see them sort of studying. So I love doing that. Actually, a lot more than I like sitting and signing books.
Okay, that makes complete sense.
Because it also feels like I'm contributing sort of a new and fresh generation of people. It's a really proactive thing for me.
Yes. Yeah. That's not. It's like they're so lucky. They're getting like a mini art lesson with you, basically.
Which is what I got. Right?
Yeah. Wow.
So I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I guess so. But to be fair, you did sign a lot of books this week.
Signed a lot.
I mean, and also mine's waiting at your table to be signed.
Oh, actually, so is my art dealers. So I'm glad you reminded me. I have to remember to pull out his books.
It's so funny because I was like, man, I'm going the whole weekend. I'll see you guys. Literally in the middle of the panel, I'm like, all right, everybody stop. Sorry. My book needs to get signed right now because I didn't win the lotto and get the 100 signing tickets.
I'm glad you reminded me of that.
I love this so much. Literally though, one of the most exciting thing, telling my husband about what's been going on. It's just like, no, we've just been hanging out and giggling and it's just been so much fun. And I think it's the most fun I've had, to be honest.
Oh, good.
Yeah, because I mean, when I went to SDCC, I had a panel, but I felt like solely responsible for everything that was going to happen. I felt pressured to pack the room because I'm kind of a performer and I'm like, I need an audience and all this stuff, right? But like this one, I was like, you know what? I have a breathing workshop. Whoever comes, I'm gonna be relaxed about it. And it was fantastic. We had a full crowd. And then, yesterday it was just a live podcast. It just felt more relaxed for me. And then today, even though there's like this weighted pressure of all of you, I mean, and I feel a bit responsible for basically strong-arming everyone to come this weekend, and there's a little pressure, but at the same time, after just the weekend of hanging out, it's kind of relaxed and nice.
So I'm sort of curious about what the dynamics, because this is the first time we're all together on the same panel.
Yes.
So I will be curious what those dynamics are like. I expect Nicola and I have been doing panels and chatting all weekend. And we joke that we're like the old guard just smoking on the set, right? So, like, listen, kid, this is the way it goes. And so we're both incredibly earnest, but have a similar shared sense of humor.
Yeah.
So I think we'll bring a certain energy to it. Gene is like very serious, like, very thoughtful and a little dry, right? And but then suddenly he'll like some zinger and you're like, oh my God, that's the funniest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, because it's unexpected,
Yes.
right? That's the thing. It's because, and you know what's funny is you think, oh, like maybe he's just like chilling out, not paying attention, but he's just like processing and listening
like,
to everything you say. And then all of a sudden it's like, and by the way, I'm here. Yeah, yes. He's like a little bit unassuming. And then that's where you just get punched, right? And
then of course, Kelly Sue is just going to be. Like,
she's larger than life.
So,
she's larger than life, obviously.
I'm really excited about this. I'm excited about the dynamics of this.
Yeah, and then you guys are all doing it again in Amsterdam.
Yes, who knew? Yes, we're gonna,
not everyone, so it's not the same lineup, but the majority of people will be there. The artists will all be there, and Kelly Sue.
Yes,
and that's the.
God, I'm excited about that too. It'll be the first international show I've done in years.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be, and it's a lovely show. So it's organized by our friend David Macho.
Yeah, so I'm super jealous.
It'll be good.
Oh my gosh, I feel like you and I have talked so much about a gamut of different things, from like social justice stuff and comics, of course, and mentors, and that like. I feel we have a big connection with, because like in my martial arts, it's all about like your teacher and having honor for that. And so it's so interesting to see that same dynamic in comics and how much you honor your teachers and your mentors. And it's always really moving to me. So it's one of those things where I feel like, yes, comics have brought us together, but at the same time, I feel like our disciplines is what makes us have so much in common.
That is, so it's funny because when I think about you, what I think mostly about is your sort of work in Florida for AAPI justice, and I think a lot about our sort of political and social justice conversations.
Yes.
So it's funny in some way that we're here at a comic convention, because that evaporated for me with you pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. Not that I don't mean anything bad about comics. It's
right. Our
conversation dovetailed in a way where the world became our topic.
Yeah.
And so, which I love. I mean, that's, so when I saw you here, again, the sort of comic world sort of fell away and those other conversations came back in my brain.
Yeah. And I want to just say, I so appreciate you having those conversations with me and just like kind of going there, because I feel like when I first meet a creator, they kind of think it's like those other podcasts that are about comics. And I was like, yeah, I actually don't know that much. I love them and whatnot. And we'll talk about process, but really, like, what did you have for breakfast?
Right.
Like,
I mean, and I think we all love that too. I don't know if that's your experience.
Yes.
Gene and I last night, we were trying to figure out when comic book people became foodies, right? Because the dinner at Kelly Sue's was really terrific.
Oh, it was terrific. And we were starving.
Yes, we were all very hungry. But it was, I mean, that's the sort of, and so Gina and I went down this like long history. So of course we're talking about our industry, but it had nothing to do with, a particular character and I can nerd out on that stuff. Don't get me wrong. Like,
yes,
like,
of course.
I have my triggers and like there's certain characters I'll be like, well, here's my thoughts, right? But
for example.
Right. But generally, I find that the stuff I'm most excited about talking about in any sort of public forum have very little to do with like the content itself.
Yeah.
I do like process conversations.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I like process conversations because I always find parallels in work, right?
Yes.
So for Kung Fu, like we teach our students, Kung Fu means hard work. And I find that is it can be such a grueling, industry in terms of what you all do. And that's why I like to find those parallels. So I tend to have mostly like collab process conversations when I have them with comic creators. But I was going to say, like, you've been kind of doing this for a while now. Like you said, you and Nicola are like, we're the old guard.
Seasoned.
Seasoned. Like, wiser. Do you feel like there's been a big change? Like you've been doing conventions, like, or do you feel like they're kind of the same?
Conventions are our industry.
Both, I guess.
Conventions are exactly the same. Like it is really stunning. I think one of the primary differences is the rise of cosplay the past 10, 20 years. It's been a long time, but I really feel like the past 10 years, it's become a really heightened art form.
And quality.
I mean, just what folks are fabricating or having made or making on their own is really extraordinary. And so they are able to participate in a very different way, which is really exciting. That to me feels like the biggest change is how much costume I see.
Yes. So what has been your favorite? that you've seen this week? Or what's just jumped out at you?
So generally, I am, what has jumped out at me? This is not necessarily a favorite, but I'm fascinated here. I'm seeing a lot of elvish people.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
Yes,
and we
like
were
a lot
kind
of
what
fantasy
does this
characters.
mean? Yes.
And so I'm not sure the source of them, but like you see a lot of them, like,
Yes.
and I feel like I miss, like, there's something out there that I'm missing that I'm not, a property or an IP that I don't know.
Yeah.
That must be the source of this stuff.
Yes.
But lots and lots of woodland elfish creatures here.
I'm sure they have a gathering somewhere.
Oh, I bet. I did see yesterday the most amazing Robert Downey Jr. Tony Stark.
Okay.
Some dude dressed in a tracksuit with a glowing heart thing that he has. And he looked so much like from a distance, he could have been a decent double.
Right,
for
right.
him.
Nice.
And I was like, look at that. Okay. Like,
I see you.
yeah. And I will say just to wrap on that, I tend to be a big sucker for anyone that sort of increases their size. So dudes that walk on stilts. Like there's Galactus around here is like 12 feet tall.
Oh, right.
Transformers, like the last convention I was at, there were like a Megatron who's about 12 feet tall because they're walking on stilts.
Yeah.
In an environment like conventions, I'm like, bravo to you.
Yes. I know. I mean, I'm worried about like, okay, I gotta keep my eyebrows on. I gotta make sure I'm running through the streets so I don't get rained on.
Yes.
I'm like, oh, my hair. But,
And you're a giant robot.
And then I see all these things, and when I get here, I'm like, oh my God, nobody's even
your feet can't feel the floor. Like, I don't know. I think that's always amazing.
Yes, 100%.
But conventions, I think, have remained roughly the same. The sort of hunger, it's very sweet. Actually, I've been doing this now I spent a lot of my life in convention centers.
Yeah.
It's very sweet to see the number of people keep coming back over and over and over who maintain an interest. I take my job very seriously, partially in that these people clearly seek out this kind of entertainment. It means something to them, right? So I think about that a lot, and what they are willing to give of themselves so that we can create the artwork that we do. Like I think that's conventions have always been that. It feels like even more so.
I like talking and asking about it just recently, only because it feels like from that pandemic hiatus, we're all just kind of feeling this, what's this going to be like?
Right.
And how is this going to go? And this is actually the first one I've been to since the pandemic. And it was a little bit like, okay, how's this going to be? How's this going to be? But then, just seeing all the friends has made it much easier and much more exciting. Yeah, because you kind of forget and you get a little bit like disarmed by it. And it's just like, oh my gosh, we're catching up. And, it's really been special.
Yeah, it has been. I'm so sorry. I'm just noticing your pen.
Yes, so Kelly Sue, yes, and you.
Yes, thank you.
So I'm going to talk about it now. And they all, Phil and Kelly Sue, got everyone gifts for the Historia team, and I wish I had it now on my cue prop.
It's packed.
Yes, exactly. And so they're mantis figurines, I guess you would call it, and there's some significance, of course, because if you read Historia, but then Kelly Sue, I mean, it was like, she's so great with words. She could say like 2 or 3 words and it has like paragraphs of meaning.
Yes.
And of course, like Andrea and I are crying. and then also she's like, Mimi's Kung Fu style is the praying mantis. And she got me this feminism mantis pin. And I was like, I'm so wearing that today. Yeah. And so like, thank you both because, she's just like, you guys kind of, I don't know. I guess you guys talked about it or something.
It's very, very cool.
Yeah. So it was really moving though to just kind of be in everybody's presence. And I think we were in the little group text this morning, and everyone's just like gratitude, gratitude, gratitude.
It was very sweet.
It's,
a reminder in a business that can be hard. Entertainment, as you know, it's not a kind business, but you have to meet really kind people in that business, and that was a lovely reminder of that. I was like, oh, I actually know a lot of really good, decent people. Many of whom are incredibly skilled at what they do, right? Which is also the skill level in that room among everyone.
I know.
It's just sort of like,
again,
whoa.
why I was like, how am I even here?
Because your skill level, what you do is about, like, I mean, everyone in that room was an artist of some kind, right?
Yes,
true. And I always think, not to get too into it, but I always think you more than any, use your body. Because one of the things I think about a lot, particularly with artists, is that this is our tool. that's your tool. Like, this is how you make your things.
Yeah.
And so there's something really wonderful and unifying about that.
100%.
And this, of course, as well. I don't mean to, but just the physicality of what we do is a really lovely unifying. And you're sort of the perfect symbol of that.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. All right. Well, I'm going to let you get to your fans.
Okay.
We're literally lining up. What we can do is we can just stop rolling, and then we can just sit here, get some tea, have some cookies, and just have a little like party right here.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's so good to see you.
And I'll see you in a couple hours.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Hello, Nicola.
So nice to be here.
I know. Well, it's been quite a journey for you, because we were just talking off air that you've circumvented the world a few times, and I'm not actually going to apologize for getting you to come out to the con, because
don't.
you are here now, and
I'm
I
thrilled.
am so thrilled. And like earlier at the booth, first time meeting you in person, and obviously the first time Phil and I are seeing each other in person, we were screaming like, high schoolers.
It is so exciting. It's so exciting to be here to represent a project with everybody else that's representing the project, especially one that we feel so proud about.
Yes. So, and you've been doing a lot of cons ever since the pandemic began and ended. This is the first one I've been back to.
Oh, wow.
So I'm a bit overwhelmed. I'm not going to lie. I'm like, there's a lot of humans, but you've been going.
We've had a few over the last couple of years in Australia. So, part of our isolation has meant that it's been a little bit easier to open up, even though we had pretty full-on lockdowns at the peak. And also our cons are generally a bit smaller. So they're just sort of a little less terrifying. So that sort of got our conditioning up.
Okay.
Going to San Diego earlier this year. Yeah. Going to San Diego earlier this year was the first time that we were flying overseas since the pandemic. And that was sort of like, oh God, how do we do this again? That took a little bit of getting your brain back in the right sort of mode for. But because we did that, this one feels like a breeze.
Okay. Yeah. Well, San Diego is a lot.
It is deeply a lot because there's no escaping. It takes over the town.
It does.
Which is half the fun. It's like one of the things that I do love about that show is that, everyone is staying at the same 4 or 5 hotels within proximity. You don't need to make plans with anyone because you'll bump into everybody eventually. And we all end up at the same bar at the end of the night anyway.
Yes.
And so,
and what's your beverage at the bar? What does Nick like to?
I'm not a big drinker.
Okay.
So depending on like how much alcohol I want to consume, I might just have like a mojito or two.
Okay.
I do love a mojito.
Okay.
And if I want to keep drinking after 2 of those, it's probably a Frangelico.
Okay. All right.
Lots of lime.
Lots of lime. Yes. Good to know. And so, talking about comics, I guess we could talk a little bit about comics.
Get to the subject.
No, if anyone's ever heard Greg and I talk, we rarely talk comics, to be honest. So, I mean, what you eat and what you drink is probably something very important as well. But one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is representation, because last time we just went into Historia, but generally speaking, representation, what is because you've spoken a lot about how important that is to you, and on so many levels. And so, what is your approach to that and your intention when you go through your creative process?
Well, it always depends on the project, a project like Historia, which just gives you a big enough cast with which to sort of really explore lots of representation. Like most of it was female, of course, because of the nature of the book. But it's a big enough cast to sort of pull from the existing volumes and characters created and build on that. It's like, who haven't we seen? What haven't we seen?
Yeah.
That kind of just sort of, it's in my nature to sort of want variety from visually as I'm putting it down, but also to sort of draw it and explore it and research. I've been drawing teen books almost my entire career.
Yeah.
And I don't want everyone to look the same. Even when you're drawing a team of characters that all have, superhero builds, it's like within there's got to be some variety. I don't want everyone looking like an action figure. I want, slim builds, chunky builds, tall people, short people. I want that sort of variety to sort of help with the storytelling and the flavor of the characters and sort of speak to the characters and who they are and what they mean to each other, how they sort of, what the dynamics might be. So much of that can be represented physically. And you're giving information to your readers. And working on a book like Historia, it was such a sort of treat to know that this time round we've got an opportunity to really spend some time with this enormous cast and explore how varied this tribe of Amazons can be.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you've also done the big mainstream superheroes, but you've done indie comics. Yeah. You kind of have such a variance and depth of work you've done. What is that transition like, kind of going back and forth? Because I'm not quite sure, but often these projects are sort of simultaneous or go back and forth in time. It's not like, okay, and this is my chapter of this is done, and now I only work on this. There's a lot of code switching.
Yeah, well, certainly for the first 10 plus years of my DC career, I was just doing pencils, I was just doing superheroes, and I was mostly doing team books. And that sort of became a sort of challenge to sort of get better with the years. With each new book, it's like, how can I add some flavor that feels appropriate to this book so that Birds of Prey didn't look the same as Secret Six, that didn't look the same as Earth 2. It's like, what can I bring to what is already my style? And then when I left DC to do Black Magic, it was like, okay, I've been working just with a 0.3 pencil and a 0.5 pencil for over a decade. What else can I do? I've lost all of these other skills because I haven't been practicing with them. How do I want to approach this book? And the same thing has happened sort of with each project I do. It's sort of like, okay, my style, you can always tell when it's my art, but my finishes will change from book to book. Do I want to pencil this? Do I want to ink this? Do I want to paint this? Do I want to semi-paint this? How much shadow do I want to put down? How light and bright do I want it to be? And a lot of that happens in the steps that I take. And then I try to convey that information to whoever I'm working with as a colorist, who for most of the last decade has been Annette Kwok. And she has been able to sort of adapt with me. It's like, today we're doing full-on glossy superheroes, let's go. Or today we're doing something that feels a little less saturated, a little more painterly. Mm-hmm. Let's sort of deal with some effects. Let's deal with some textures that will give us a bigger sense of depth. And she happily sort of, adapts with me and sort of, takes my lead and will follow me through all of my bullshit.
Well, from the people that I already know that has collaborated with you, everyone loves to collaborate with you. So.
Oh, that's very nice.
One of my favorite things is travel. And you and I were speaking earlier. It does take a lot out of you. And one of the things lately in the last, 5 or so years, I love to go to the comic book shops in different countries to see what I can find in different languages. And, being American, obviously, we always think everything revolves around us and that all the markets are geared towards American markets. And to be fair, a lot of the entertainment industry is, but, being from Australia and kind of having a completely different worldview, you can share your view of America. It's completely fine.
Yikes.
Okay, America before 2016, not as yikes, right? Not as yikes.
Not as yikes at all.
Not as yikes at all. Okay, great. That makes me feel a lot better because I share that. But how do you approach your art in a way of which is like, I'm Australian, and so I'm bringing my culture and my, point of view, or is it like, okay, it depends on the project. Do you try to draw towards a demographic, or is it just very much like how you feel inspired?
Look, a little bit of that sort of bringing yourself and your culture and your attitudes and all that kind of stuff is inevitable. It's just going to happen. And that's part of the flavor added of, any creator. Certainly, as I was sort of breaking into the business, knowing that I wanted to work in the American market, it was like, okay, I need to gear myself for the American market. But beyond that, it's really just sort of project to project. What serves the story, what serves the tone of the story, what can I sort of test myself with? Because I'm always wanting to sort of feel like I'm trying something new.
Yeah.
Anytime I find myself drawing in the same old style, I'm just sort of like, ooh, this is getting a bit boring, until I'm drawing something that I've never drawn before. It's like this kind of building or this kind of machine or whatever. Okay, that's interesting.
I see.
Or this kind of emotional, complex exchange, trying to sort of find some subtlety or subtext that will keep it stimulating for me to do. That is where the sort of interest comes. That's where I sort of feel like I bring myself. But certainly in terms of sort of when Greg Rucker and I started on Black Magic, straight away, sort of as soon as I sort of felt like I had a feel for what I wanted the art to look like, which was a big leap from what I had been doing at DC.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this feels like it could do well in Europe. The European market, which is essentially French comics, because that's where it's sort of the epicenter of it.
Okay.
Is. I was like, well, this might do okay in Europe. And the last convention that we did before the pandemic was Paris Comic Con, and then I did a few signings sort of in Paris. I did a convention in Ghent, and so what really sort of surprised me about all of those experiences, especially the ones in France, was how much interest there was in Black Magic as opposed to anything sort of superhero DC related that I had done. Even though there was definitely an audience for it,
of course,
they were way more interested in sort of talking to me or coming with copies of Black Magic. And I was like, oh, okay, so this really has had some traction in the European market, which was very exciting.
That is exciting.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, and would you think you would have known that feedback if you didn't go to the con?
Well, we kind of,
from the numbers, I guess.
From the numbers, it's sort of reasonably reassuring, the translation right deals that you get.
Okay.
It gives you an idea of what they expect to sell. And our French translation rights were pretty decent.
Okay.
And so it's like, okay, they can see that it might be appropriate for their market. And it was, And the audience there was so broad. There would be your little kids, you'd be your middle-aged geeks, there'd be sort of everyone that you'd expect to see at a signing. But there would also be like 70-year-old, very glamorous European women who would come up and sort of give me her book and say, my son's so jealous that he's not meeting you today. And I'm just like, holy shit, lady, I should have dressed up, She
have some feathers or something.
Right, she was so fabulous, so stylish, and I was just like, oh man, only in France.
Yeah.
And so, that their readership is not the American style readership. It's really broad. If you go into any bookstore in France, there's loads of comics, and there's all kinds of stuff because they don't do a lot of superhero stuff, which is the epicenter of American comics.
Right.
And they don't have a lot of sort of anime-inspired styles, even though it's there. It's its own flavor.
Okay.
And they do sort of really different kind of storytelling, really different kind of subjects.
I did not know any of this. That's
European
fascinating.
comics are amazing.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's fascinating. And so, kind of staying on culture, and then we'll wrap so
Sure.
you can get back to your fans
No,
that are
sure.
lining up. So many. No, it's true facts. But I try not to be the ignorant American when I travel, and I want to learn about the culture. In Australia, I've only been to Brisbane and Sydney, and so I understand that even from those two cities, there's lots of differences. It's such a vast country. What can you share kind of a little about Australia that maybe to just kind of give us a little bit about, like, hey, this is stuff you should know.
Right.
These are the stereotypes. I will say the one stereotype that I don't know if it's true. We're like, oh, so everyone just is tall and looks like supermodels here. Okay, that's a thing. And I'm like, and here we have more proof of this. But everybody was so tall. I mean, I'm Asian and short anyway, but it was kind of upsetting. We're like, wow, and everybody's just. So
really?
That's cool. I don't know.
I don't know about that. I don't know that we see ourselves as glamorous. Yeah, we're sort of. I suppose we are a pretty sort of large nation, but we're a melting pot. Like the States is a melting pot, but being a much younger nation, and our position in the world, we've got a lot larger sort of various Asian cultures as part of our culture.
Yeah.
And that has been the case sort of since our colonization. And sort of in the 20th century, sort of post-Second World War, we got a lot of European immigration. And so we have not a lot of African immigration. We don't have a lot of American immigration. Okay. So there is that kind of flavor. But at the same time, we're very influenced by American culture because there's much of it everywhere. And at the same time, we have a lot of British culture that gets to us. Very little of our culture gets out because it's a long way to go. But, for those that do, significant because our population is pretty tiny by comparison to everybody else. But we are this sort of very specific melting pot that's very Western, white English people. But I feel like our sort of our culture is just a little more laid back. We didn't have a Puritan origin, we had a penal origin. So, we kind of celebrate naughty people. There's a reason why we swear a lot. I think we're generally pretty laid back. Our version of friendliness is usually pretty gruff. And if anyone's being really friendly to you and they're Australian, chances are they're keeping their distance. Always be suspicious of a genuinely friendly Australian.
Okay, good to know.
What the fuck does that mean? And our flora and fauna isn't all going to try and kill you.
Okay, that is obviously the number one stereotype, but I'm just going off of when I was there. And
like the highest number of killer animals and insects and snakes and whatever, they all live in Australia, sure, but they're
you have to find them. You have to go.
You've got to really be living a death wish.
Okay.
Or be a sort of we lose a lot of German tourists who will just sort of go into water holes and into the ocean where it's like, no, don't do that. Absolutely don't go there. But I grew up in the city, so I've seen some pretty creepy spiders, but our scariest spiders don't actually hurt you.
Okay.
They're just terrifying to look at.
Okay, good to know. All right, so one of my favorite, I love local comic book shops, as I kind of mentioned, and my local one, because even though I'm in Florida, is actually Massachusetts, because it's my pal, Paper Asylum, and I order books from there, and I always
Who's
have
your pal?
Pete,
Yeah.
comic book Pete, and he's been on the show a bunch too. We just talked
I think
about
I met
Spider-Man
Pete this morning.
and also he's like, I would like you to ask every person you interview this weekend who would win between Superman and Hulk, in your opinion.
Look, I think Superman. Hulk is a powerhouse, absolutely, but he's just power. It's not focused and controlled and conscious necessarily. And it is, while it is sort of a supernaturally created power, it's of Earth. Superman just isn't of Earth and can, shoot laser beams and fly and go into space, and he will just be fine. They'll tire each other out first, but Superman has the potential to sort of re-energize himself pretty simply and quickly.
Okay, there it is.
Superman, sorry everybody.
Perfect. All right. Well, I'm super excited for the rest of the weekend.
Same.
And those of you tuning in online, you get to see it all in post. But Nicola Scott, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye. Hello, Jean, in person.
Hello, Sifu Mimi.
Oh. This is so exciting. I'm really excited to be here because one is we met in person before.
Yes.
But we were kind of like acquaintances, and I feel like now I can call you friend. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been really.
You're the friend who gets me into good trouble.
I love that. And actually, we can kind of announce what's happening. You're the first person that we would be speaking about that on air with, which is kind of fitting because you and I, the last time we spoke, talked a lot about activism, talked a lot about how you can be a supporter and you're the best cheerleader. And you had actually, I believe on air said, let me know what I can do to help, sign me up.
Yeah.
And famous last words to get you into good trouble, right?
Yeah.
And so in Florida, as you know, my bill passed.
Yes.
And that was very exciting, very unexpected, but it happened. And we are hoping now that Asian American history will be taught around the country, because since my bill passed, we I think are at like 19 state chapters.
Oh, wow.
So people have seen the work we are doing and they are excited. And so they are now motivated. So this is the good kind of ripple effect.
I actually did not know this stuff. So I didn't know it's not expanded that much. So that's really awesome.
It is really awesome. So I feel like the work we're doing is exciting. And what we had done initially nationally was we created an AAPI Pioneer coloring book, and we've been distributing that. We did kind of a fundraiser and got that going. And so in Florida, we're trying to get involved in the curriculum development, and we thought, why not have a Florida AAPI coloring book, especially because what we've done is so instrumental and a milestone for the, kind of the projection of how, AAPI, Asian American history, may be taught in the country. And so we're going to do this really fun workbook, not just a coloring book. We're going to have other activities of AAPI pioneers. And you were one of the first, pretty much the first to volunteer, because before it was an actual project, you had volunteered. So thank you for that. And we have all these other amazing artists that now that they know Jean Ha's doing it, they're like, all right, I don't want to look bad. I guess I got to do it. No, I'm just kidding. Everyone's been amazing. And I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, I got to say, there's like a thing where like sometimes, I think everybody who feels like they want the world to be a little better thinks, oh, I wish I could do something to help make things better. But it's like, oh, I don't know if anyone else will go along with it, or I don't know if I want to start, or if everyone will think it's a dumb idea. And then when your friend tells you they're going to do it, it's kind of like, okay, they actually have the guts to actually go, to actually go forward. And I didn't have the guts to make that go forward on my own. I need to jump on that train. Yeah. Because, I'm going to kick myself forever if I don't jump on that train.
So positive peer pressure.
Yeah. It's just like, you are living my dream, and I'm going to jump on your train and get on that.
Anytime. So I'm super excited because we've got some amazing artists lined up, and it's just going to be amazing because one is this book is distributed without copyright, and it is literally to be passed out to the teachers so they can make copies for the kids.
Oh, that's nice.
So it can be available for students. We want everything to be accessible, because that's been a big thing, accessibility, right? Like even with the work that you do, like with art and cons and all of these things, right? It's like accessibility is always a challenge.
Yeah, and there's definitely. I did not know all these details on how you're doing it. Like the fact that you're not you're allowing it to be like everyone to just make their own copies.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that drives teachers crazy is there's so many materials that are insanely expensive.
Yes.
And then, when they can find something like what you're doing or a crash course video that they can just present for free that has what they need for the students, it's like, they will jump on it. It makes their lives easier and better.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much for setting the example, leading the way, and volunteering to kind of work with us on this project.
I just the thought you put into this is like, if I had tried to do this myself, it would not have been so thoughtful. So I'm like, wow, I'm glad you're managing this.
Which also leads us to here being at Rose City Comic Con together. Yeah. You and I were the catalyst for this when you said, well, I actually hadn't met Kelly Sue in person yet. And I go, oh, really? Wheels turning. And here we are at this epic, amazing lineup of all of the creators for Wonder Woman Historia. And you are working the Heroes Initiative today. Kind of share a little bit about that. I know people can tune into our other episode, but it's such a great cause.
Yeah. So the Heroes Initiative is, I'm going to say it's uniquely American pretty much because every other country with a big comic book making tradition has a social security net where when you get old, you will not be bankrupted by medical emergencies or getting kicked out of your apartment probably or something like that. But in the United States, American comic book creators tend to be freelancers or indie creators. And when something bad happens, we just have to deal with it ourselves unless the rest of the community can come together. And when somebody like William Messner Loebs, who's publicly thanked Hero Initiative for his help, when he ran into a financial emergency and he and his wife were homeless, Hero Initiative stepped in to get him and his wife into an apartment and to help him get back on his feet again. Because again, we are freelancers. Once our savings are tapped, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in trouble.
Yeah, and it's also, I think, the arts in general is underappreciated, underfunded, all of the above, not just in general, but in education too. It's something that I noticed that when I teach my Kung Fu kids and I ask them, do they have an art class or anything like that? I think it's very seasonal. Like they only get it for one semester or just in one grade, and they don't necessarily have it all the time. So it's such a frustrating thing because art is so essential to development. Like, can you imagine a world without the next generation learning about art?
Yeah, if you try to imagine like a world of engineers who haven't taken art classes, it's just going to be bad engineering. It teaches you how to think visually, no matter what you do. Whether you're an athlete or a writer or a surgeon or an artist, visual thinking is really important. Learning how to do that. I mean, I'm just going to give an example. My wife had to have surgery inside of Mexico because she had an accident.
Yeah, I know. You had mentioned that was really stressful.
Yeah, and first we found the surgical team in Mexico City. The two surgeons both spoke English, but also in medical school, he had to learn to draw so he could explain to other people on the team and to patients what he was doing. So he did drawings for us of what the operation was going to be.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
And so you now as a comic artist, right? You also write too.
But just people. A lot of people who think they know how to fix education don't think the arts are important, like you're saying. And it is crucial.
You basically, that's crucial for like not just life or death, but like in a really important situation.
Yeah,
100%. And now you as a comic creator, I know you're also a writer because of May, and you've done both things, but really you do a lot of the artwork. Like, what is your talking about visualization, your process for bringing like another writer's art, visual, ideas to fruition?
When I work with a writer, like, hey, how do I translate it? It's like sometimes I'll make mistakes, and like the writer will have to explain to me. But I look at that and I try to figure out what the story they're trying to tell is, and then try to figure out the best way to do that visually. Which sometimes the writer knows exactly what they want. There have been examples of that, like when I did Brad Meltzer's story. Frankly, Brad Meltzer knew. Another Floridian, knew exactly how to tell the story. And I was like, I don't know if that's going to work. And he said it would, and he was right. Or sometimes, and this is what happened with Kelly Sue, she knew what the effect she wanted in the story was, but she wrote in the script, I don't know visually how you're going to do these effects. There's two instances where it's like, I don't know how visually you're going to do this, but I trust you because I know you're visually creative, and you'll figure a way to tell this story. And it's like, that is really humbling to have somebody trust me that much.
Yeah.
And I needed to there are so many things about Wonder Woman Historia where I had to step up, and it was an honor, but it was also, it was thrilling, and it was also really a challenge. It was really a good challenge. So,
yes. And I always find that process to be kind of incredible, because the writers sometimes have what you may think is a specific vision in their head, and you're kind of like trial and error, like, is this it? Is this it? But what I found is a lot of the writers, like collaborators that you've worked with, like Kelly Sue, is so trusting and says, no, what you bring your visual vision, but here's a story I'm telling, and it becomes this really amazing dance that's very cohesive.
Yeah, and there's things where like, and it can be even like Wonder Woman Historia is a very serious, very thoughtful, Kelly Sue has put so much thought and meaning and thought about emotions and making it just right. And sometimes you're just also just doing a goofy humor story or a goofy superhero story, which is very tongue-in-cheek. And when you bring Gene Ha on board, I kind of think of myself as somebody who professionally overthinks things, and I'm going to make it worth reading the second time. So after you get the jokes the first time, you're going to see the other layers of the story too that the writer meant to put in there, but most people would just kind of pass over. So.
Okay, and speaking of which, Wonder Woman Historia, I think your work on Top 10, so many things have so much incredible detail, and you're going, it's sequential art, right? So it's all panels. Like, how do you decide how much detail you're putting into each panel? Because you can't spend forever on the one and knowing you still have deadlines and more to do. Like, which becomes your favorites, or how does that process work for you?
I will say it's been a long time since I've tried to do monthly books. I think Top 10 was kind of the last time I did monthly. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I tend to jam as much as I can in to get in everything that the writer is trying to get into the story, and then to deepen it if the story can handle it or needs it or anything like that. But also, it's also decision making. I think the thing I'm really good at, I think not uniquely, but especially notably good at, is I'm good at throwing in a lot of details without derailing the story. And some people, when they throw in as much detail as I try to do, they do it in a way where it's hard to tell what the main story is, and you can't tell what the main point is. And I'm good at highlighting one thing, but then if you read it a second time, you see all the stuff on the edges that don't seem as important, are trying to tell either the same story and accentuate it, or another thing I really love to do is tell an opposite story and kind of give like a complementary opposite story or different emotions. Like the hero's going in and like drawing the one hero who is terrified and nervous about it and thinks this is a dumb idea, and just making clear on their facial expressions, just complicating or stuff like that.
Yeah. So we're at a con. It's been, for me, since the last time I saw you in person in 2019 was the last time I was at a live con.
Yeah.
You've been going to them. What have you missed about it? Have they come back the same? What's been your experience?
Let's see. I'm trying to think. I mean, actually kind of are the same. I mean, like the comics retail business in the last few years has gone nuts. It's been much harder for retailers.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things. The industry keeps on changing as far as the emphasis from like superheroes and stronger over the years to more like young adult teen books and preteen books. But as far as Comic-Cons go, they just keep on going from strength to strength. And once they came back, they just really came back. Okay. Different shows came back better. Some shows came back weaker, but altogether, it's just like it's the meeting. It's a meeting of the geek tribes. It's the geek prom.
The geek prom.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, we all get together, and as long as everyone's making room for everyone else, it works. And then as long as you can tame the jerks who don't want everyone else to be there, it's going to be a great show.
Oh, I love that. How do we tame them?
You just make clear rules on like what's allowed and what's not allowed.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just like making it. When you make it unfriendly for someone else to be there, who's not being controlled for somebody else, I'll give an example, like a time where it did not work right.
Okay.
So San Diego during the time of the Twilight movies.
Yeah.
A lot of comic geeks were really angry that this, I'm going to use the word stupid, this dumb story about vampires didn't belong inside this serious convention of superheroes.
Wow.
And they're just like, we got all these kids crowding here. Why are they crowding here? And it's kind of like, their story is no more dumb than the Hulk. It's less dumb than the Hulk. And I love the Hulk.
Yeah.
I love Spider-Man, but Spider-Man's a dumb story. We've added emotion and depth to it over the years, and the initial stories had this wonderful magic to it. And like Twilight has a kind of a magic to the story.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily my cup of tea. We did not plan that ahead of time. But yeah, they are geeks like us, and they belong here.
Oh my gosh, yes. And that's the thing, you and I, a very, very first conversation we had, we talked about geeking out and how important that was and how the culture of that has changed, and that it should be a place for everyone to be able to come and geek out about whatever it is you geek out about, right? It's not just superheroes and whatnot. And speaking of tea, we're at this amazing tea shop in Portland, so shout out to our Smith tea maker. Love that. And so Jean's drinking a matcha?
Yeah, it's called the ceremonial matcha, and I've never had a chance to have matcha before where they actually whipped it for me.
Yes, they whisk it out with, I think, a bamboo whisk is the traditional. And I'm drinking just kind of a mint iced tea, which is lovely. So we're doing a little plug for this lovely tea shop for hosting us. But I find that to be so frustrating that people also think it's their space, right? Because this kind of takes us back to the beginning where cons weren't inclusive and comfortable for like a lot of women and a lot of people. I had Scott Shaw on the show way back, and he told me he was at the very first Comic-Con and how different it was then to what it's changed to now. But we want to keep growing and being more open, to being more accepting. But yeah, that is frustrating.
Yeah, and I'll say, like there's some people out there who feel like they're all the knowledge and a trivia they've learned over the decades makes them special, and if you can't match that, you don't belong there.
Right.
I would say this is a very uncommon attitude among creators, because it's kind of like, oh, I would like to sell more books, and new people are coming in interested in books. Of course, please come in and become a comic geek.
Yes.
We're not like, you can't join the comic geek club unless you know everything that Jimmy Olsen has transformed into over the years during his friendship with Superman.
And I'm going to tell you, I don't know, and I'm not a very good geek in that regard, but one of my favorite places to geek out is Paper Asylum, which is my local comic book shop in Beverly, Massachusetts. So not very local for me because I'm in Orlando, but it is where I do get my comics, because one of our really dear friends runs that, super passionate, and actually threw out a bunch of questions for all the creators that I'd be talking to, and said, you know what, I want you to ask every creator who would win, Superman or Hulk, because you just brought up the Hulk and reminded me of that question.
The secret is, it depends on who the writer likes more. It's like Superman versus Batman. If you go by physics, obviously Superman's going to win.
Yeah, no question.
If you go by, but Batman's superpower is he does not lose. And it's not an interesting story if Batman keeps losing. He can lose once, but he doesn't lose twice.
There you have it. Yeah. All right. So I can't wait to hear what everybody else has to answer. And we are just taking kind of a quick tea break here. This isn't our traditional podcast where we're going to keep you for hours and hours. And we're, in a really unconventional environment, but I like it. I kind of like that this is totally different.
I need to tell all the viewers out there a secret.
Yes.
Okay. So this is my green tea, which actually has little green powdery tea molecules in it. So all the caffeine is in this tea. Hers is uncaffeinated. This is her without caffeine. Mimi is just like this.
I am just like this. Yeah, this is just a plain mint tea with no caffeine. Yeah. Yes, exactly. So, well, cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you so much. This was lovely to be able to sit and drink some tea with you live, and have fun at the rest of the con. And this will be aired after, of course, but thank you for helping me catalyst this epic Wonder Woman Historia reunion.
Oh, yeah, it's a pleasure just talking comics with you, hanging out with you, and also getting my first properly whisked tea. So,
all right. We'll see you all next time. Yay.
That's all for today's episode. Thanks for listening to the Sifu Mimi Chan Show. Please subscribe and rate my podcast on your platform of choice and leave a review. You can become a patron of the show at patreon.com/SifuMimiChan to help keep this podcast going. Follow me and interact on social media at Sifu Mimi Chan on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook.